Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Good Stuff. I'm Kevin Bille, and as always, we appreciate you joining us today. I'm a little biased, but I think the best time of the year is always March Madness, and this year was no different. A lot of great moments, and one of those moments was Ohio University beating Virginia, and we are fortunate today to have Ohio's head coach with us, Jeff Boals. Jeff, it's great to see you, man.
I appreciate you having me on. Always good to see another Northeast Ohio guy doing well and promoting the game, and appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I want to dive into that right away. Growing up nearby here, what do you think, Jeff? Like, as you look back, like, what did you learn here growing up that's always stuck with you? Is there something like when you think of Northeastern Ohio that resonates with you and your family?
Yeah, I grew up in Magnolia, Ohio, so small town USA, and I just think the Midwest small town morals and values, family. My grandfather, grandma, they owned a farm down in Carrollton, Delroy,
Mm-hmm.
and we go down and work at the farm all weekend, go to the lake. And back then it was like everybody knew everybody. You felt safe outside. You know, go play pickup basketball on the weekends, all day, and just a lot of really good memories and a lot of really good people.
Yeah, for sure. That resonates with me too. I always tell people too, you can leave your keys in the car and not have to worry about it. So, but yeah, it's a good place. But I mean, you had a nice career, and you kind of start working your way up the ladder as a coach. Kind of maybe your breakthrough moment, if you will, at Ohio State. I know it's when we started to connect a lot more. But before we talk about that experience, like, what would you say, or what would you remember the most about that journey that you could tell others right now that maybe they're in the middle of that, not knowing when that breakthrough moment comes? They might be discouraged, or they might just start settling or being comfortable. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I always say, my wife even says it. I'm one of few people that love what they do, right, as a profession. And I think if you look at the whole dynamic, it's a great profession in a messed up business. And there's 300, I think 56, 57 Division One teams, X amount of Division Two, three. There's only so many people who do what you do, and it's a tough business to break into. It's timing, it's who you know, it's relationships, probably more than anything. Um, I didn't know I wanted to coach. I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was a biology major. Took neuroanatomy, cell chemistry, organic chemistry, all those classes. And 20 games into my senior year, I blew my knee out for the third time. And at the end of the year, I didn't know what I wanted to do, like most 22-year-olds. And my coach at the time, Larry Hunter, asked me if I'd be interested in coaching because he lost an assistant. And I tell people I fell into coaching literally.
Yeah.
So when I started, I made $6,000. I was the restricted earnings coach, and really didn't know I was going to make it a profession. Then the guy who was the assistant coach, Jason G, got the head job at University of Charleston, and asked me to go with him. And I got this tripled my salary almost. I mean, I made like $23,000, and I was the only full-time assistant coach. I was the compliance director for 14 sports. I was the equipment, ran the equipment room, ran the facilities, set up for
Right.
soccer matches and everything. Drove the vans, swept the floor, cranked the baskets, did the laundry, and I did that for 3 years. And I really appreciated the, coaching. Like when I was 22 years old, I had like two guys on that team that were older than me. Because it was Division Two, and you're bringing all kind of kids in. But I think when I was at Charleston, I really felt like I could make it a career. And at that time, I was chasing bigger, better, more money, higher level. And I got to Marshall, and I think I really appreciated where I was. And I got a break to go to Marshall. I didn't know Greg White. He hired me. And so I think people who are in that situation, like it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of luck, it's a lot of timing, and you got to meet as many people as you can, and probably most important, build relationships.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times people want to hire who they know and who they can trust. And I kind of worked my way up, and when I was at Marshall, the guy I thought I was going to get the University of Charleston head coaching job, and Greg White ended up taking that job. So I was without a job for about a month and a half, and it was very humbling. And they always say if you're in the business long enough, right, you get hired to get fired,
Yeah, right.
and you buy a house to be able to sell the house. And so I was, it was very humbling, to not have a job for a month and a half, and just kind of worked my way back into it. And like you said, I got my break at Ohio State. I didn't know Thad Matta. Um, he called me, and I thought it was a prank phone call. The first time he called me, because it was an unknown call. And after about a minute, I'm like, "Holy crap, this is Thad Matta!" And worked out there. I was there 7 years, and 7 awesome years. He's a huge mentor for me. And then I got my first break to be a head coach. And it's hard to become a head coach. I thought my first head coaching job was going to be Ohio University. When I was at Ohio State, I got passed up twice, for this job. My alma mater, and we were number one in the country at Ohio State. Final four, and but it's all timing, luck.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot in there, and I hope people, a couple things that you've said already that I think are really important. The passion part's huge. I think it's one thing to enjoy what you're doing and, of course, be good at it too. But I think you also said something that was really key. You appreciated where you were and where you are, and I hope that resonates with people. And I'm only chuckling about the washing of laundry, cranking baskets, and having older guys because I've been there, done that. What was it? Give us a little bit of an inside glimpse. Like, what was it working for Coach Matta? That's kind of when I started reconnecting more with you down there. And I always appreciated being down there, watching you guys, learning, staying in touch. I think I have my own opinion, but of course you're really on the inside. What do you think you took away from your time with him?
Probably the best thing I've ever heard about Thad Matta was that, as a 10-year head coach at Ohio State, he was the same person then that he was as a GA at Indiana State when he started out. And if you talked to him and didn't know who he was, you'd never know he was the head coach at Ohio State, been to 2 Final Fours, won multiple championships, had NBA draft picks. And I think that says a lot about who he is and how he does things. And I think the communication piece, how he communicated, was awesome. He just had a way to figure out every individual, which as a head coach, which as a CEO, you have to know personalities and how to get the best out of people. I think he was great at building confidence and belief in his teams and players individually. And, he was a servant leader. He just, put us assistants in positions to empower us and gave us a lot of responsibility to be ready to be a head coach. And, I'll forever be grateful because, he took a chance on me. And I think I might have been the second person he ever hired that was not in his, coaching tree because he was kind of out of people. And again, it goes back to timing. I was at Akron with Keith Dambrod. We won 26, 27, 25 games, really successful. And, I was an Ohio guy. So I think it just worked out timing wise and luck.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about, you mentioned some NBA draft picks, and you guys had some really good players there. You got a couple now. What is it that to you is there a key ingredient, whether it's in basketball here or in life or business, whatever person's listening, like what separates those guys, and is that something that, if I am listening to this right now, that can help me out in what I'm doing? Was there one thing, two things that stood out to you consistently out of these type of players?
Yeah, I think, whether you're a CEO or a head coach, right, the better players you have, the better coach you're going to be, and the better salespeople you have, the better everyone's going to be. But I think the great ones, they think differently, they act differently, they carry themselves differently, they work differently. And, we always told people, like, there's no machine where you pop in there and, you want to be an NBA player? Yes. Okay. Flip a switch. Go ahead. You're going to the NBA. And obviously it's talent and skill, but I think it's an internal drive. I think it's the best ones I've been around were super competitive. They hated losing.
Yeah.
We would do drills in practice where you do a rebounding drill or a defensive drill and you just did it to do it. They were kind of going through the motions. But if you said, okay, if you get an offensive rebound, it's +2, defensive rebound +1, turnover -1, take a charge +5, it was game on.
Right.
And once there was a scoreboard and you know, points, win or loser, it was game on. And if they lost, they wanted to run it back. So I think just the competitive desire and the drive to be great, because those people outwork everybody.
Is there a certain path that you personally as a coach can tell, hey, this guy's going to be a pro? I mean, I got to think the talent's a factor there. And when you recruited some of those guys at Ohio State, you probably knew, but then there's probably some situations where maybe they were tweeners and they developed into that, or maybe they weren't. If I look at like Jason Preston's story, which is an unbelievable story, that didn't happen overnight once again to flip the switch. But is there a point in time for you that you're able to say that, yep, this guy 100%, he's good to go at that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, 45, I guess maybe Americans are going to get drafted out of 60. They're going to have international guys involved. Now you're going to have high school kids pretty soon. So it's hard to make the NBA. It's like the best of the best in the world. And to be one of 60 drafted, how many of those kids really make it? And I think if you look at it, it's a very athletic league, but you have to have a skill level, right? You have to be an unbelievable shooter, an unbelievable rebounder, an unbelievable passer, an unbelievable defender. One of those four skill sets to really get you involved in there. And then when you get there, how many guys are stars at where they're at in college? And then you get to the NBA and now you're a spot up shooter. You're a defender. There's only so many superstars, like everyone says. So you have to change your role, change your mindset, once you get there, to be able to stay there. And, the player I have now, Jason Preston, he's going to play in the NBA someday. He has an elite passing skill that, he's great in pick and roll. He just sees things before they happen. And that was a lot like Evan Turner, D'Angelo Russell. Those guys had that vision, and Jason has that.
I think once I became a parent, I had no idea what it took to be a parent. And I thought all along that I had an idea of what it took to be a head coach. And, I was a head coach at 25 years old and I had no idea. Does that resonate with you along your path, that when you finally did become that head coach? Because Jeff, I think that 18-inch jump is the biggest jump in the world.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, there were a couple of things I wasn't prepared for. I remember I called my first time out in the game, and it was a 30-second timeout. And before I could even say a word, like the first horn was going off. And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
I haven't even said anything yet. I'm not ready. And it just happened so quick. And, like anything, experience is the best thing. 20/20 hindsight's, the best. And I think probably the biggest thing, I wasn't ready for is all the close games. We had a lot of close games. And after like the fifth one, one possession game, I went back and completely looked at everything differently. I watched the last 5 minutes of all these games and, came up with 2 out of bounds plays we would run, 2 side out of bounds, 1 set play, and, really were focused in on that. But I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, right.
And, like anything, I don't care if you're Coach K or Jeff Boals, you're going to constantly continue to try to get better and strive to be great and learn, reading books, watching tapes, getting on Twitter, watching other games. And like anything, you try to steal things that work for other people and are successful for them and try to implement them into what you do. But it was a big jump. And I think when you become a head coach or a CEO, right now you're managing everything. As an assistant coach, you're dealing with recruiting, maybe a couple of kids academically, the kids in the locker room, preparing for games. As a head coach, you're recruiting every kid. You're dealing with compliance. You're dealing with facilities. You're dealing with housing, boosters, scheduling, just everything that goes involved. And I think you have to have the executive piece to it. You have to have the communication piece to it. You have to have the X and O's piece to it. And, I think it's a different kid nowadays. So, it's like figuring out what button to push and how to relate to them and how to get through to them. So there's a lot involved, definitely.
When I used to go down to Florida for Coach Shy's clinic all those years in a row, I remember one year they mentioned that I think like they did a study and like 10 to 15% of the time you were actually coaching, but it's all those other things that you were doing. And it's so funny when you say those things. It's like, I think it took me 4 or 5 years, the close games, to like start practicing end of game situations in October until waiting until January until we lost 3 or 4 of those. I think you said also something that resonated with me there as well. How important people that are listening in leadership positions is delegation.
Yeah, I really struggle with that. When I initially became a head coach, and you have to trust, right? And when you work your way up to be in that position as an assistant, like when I was at Charleston, I did everything, right? I was the only assistant coach. And then when you go to Marshall and you have, 3 assistants, a couple GAs, and an ops guy, you got more people, to do different things. And then, you go to Ohio State, same thing. So when I became a head coach, that was difficult for me to delegate.
Hmm.
And, you want to implement how you want to do things offensively, defensively, et cetera. But then you hire people who you trust, right? Who you want to grow. And my first couple of years, I've always said, like, I thought I did a pretty good job of coaching my team, but I didn't do a great job of coaching my staff. I had a young staff, how to teach them how to, get better, and give them certain ideas to grow. And I think that's a part of, being a head coach, is helping your assistants grow.
Right.
So, but delegating was hard for me because I'd never had to do it. But when you become a head coach, you have to, right? You have to trust. You have to let people, do certain things.
Yeah, and it is hard, I think, when you first take over, because when people don't know how you want it done, it's like you need to implement that first and then build that trust. What would you say to the hiring process? Are you somebody, you keep mentioning trust, which I couldn't agree more, in the loyalty. But one thing I value more the older I've gotten, Jeff, is hiring people that aren't like me. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think it's important, right? Because you don't know everything, and you want people to bring something to the table that's going to, help the program, help, us win. And you have to check your ego. It's like, I'm not the best, whatever. I need to find somebody who, supplements that. And I didn't feel like I needed a former head coach or someone who had been a head coach when I got the job at Stony Brook. But it just so happened I hired Gino Ford, who Gino and I played together. He was in my wedding. He got fired at Bradley, was down in Florida for a year, and wasn't, coaching. So timing was important, but I hired him because I knew him and trusted him, and it ended up being unbelievable for me because whether it was a win, whether it was a loss, you know, get in late at night, he always gave me some bullet points to think about, stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought myself. But him having already been a head coach multiple years,
Hmm.
his thinking and thought process was different than mine. So it was invaluable to me to have somebody like that. When I got to Ohio, I brought a couple guys with me, hired a couple other guys. And like you said, the chemistry is important. The staff chemistry is really important. And you want everyone to be on the same page. You want ideas brought to the table. And really, how are we going to help elevate our program and help our student athletes out?
I'm sure the comic relief from Gino along the way was a boost for you during maybe some tough losses, but
You know, he is the funniest guy I've ever been around. And anytime I want to feel good about myself or better
yeah.
about myself, I call him because he'll make he'll make it seem like he's got the worst thing going and make you feel better.
I wish I could say on air. I used to go down to those Kent State practices a lot when I was at Notre Dame, and he got us a game, and it was like a 6 point game with 5 minutes to go. And I don't think Christian was too happy with Gino, and his exchange with me in the post game line wasn't good. But yeah, it's always funny. Well, hey, maybe the most obvious question here, Jeff, but what's it like being at your alma mater? You mentioned this a little bit earlier. It seems like I was curious to know, was this part of maybe your vision or goal as a coach? But I think it might have been, having gone for the job already twice previously.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started coaching, I think you always dream about kind of coaching at your alma mater and not knowing if it would ever happen. Like I said, it's hard to get a head coaching job, and so when I was at Ohio State, I really thought my first head coaching job was going to be at OU. And like I mentioned, I got bypassed twice for the job, and for whatever reason. So my path was a little different. I got the Stony Brook job, and I knew nothing about Long Island. I'd never been to the East Coast, and when I went out there, I loved it. We were right by the water, great president, great AD, great facilities. Top three job in that league, and we built it up to where we were 24-8, had the most regular season wins in school history, beat South Carolina, Rhode Island, George Washington, Northern Iowa that year. And I wasn't looking to leave. We had 11 freshmen, sophomores. We had a transfer sitting out. It was really good. And then got a call from a Power 5 school, wasn't interested at the time. And then my alma mater called me again. And, my daughter was 16. She had moved 7 times. My son was, young at that time. And we had just moved a 3-year period from Columbus to Stony Brook. So it was a family decision, really. If my family didn't want to move, we wouldn't have moved. And, everybody was on board. So, they offered me the job and I accepted it. And, I guess the third time's a charm.
Yeah.
And just coming back and seeing, my former academic advisor came to my press conference, my guy who was my trainer at the time, Skip Bosser, came, and, just seeing people that have been here 20 some years, walking the bricks and Court Street and College Green, coming in the combo, just it's a real feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how are you wired? Like when you came back, are you a short-term vision guy? Do you have a long-term vision? Is it a little bit of both? Like what was your approach from the get-go?
Yeah, the biggest thing was just having a growth mindset. We ended up losing one of the players. We got rid of a couple guys. And the guys we had coming back, I think we might have 5 guys on the roster after all that happened. And, two of those guys were hurt. Like we couldn't even have a full workout. So recruiting those guys was really big, building trust and a communication piece with the 5 that were on campus were big. But we had like 7 scholarships to fill. And at the time it was myself and Lamar Thornton who came with me from Stony Brook. And, you just talk about a whirlwind, just trying to figure everything out and trying to get the right people in. So the mindset was of a growth mindset. And we have a couple simple goals. Number one, get better as a team every single day and get closer as a team every single day. And, wins and losses, we weren't going to sit there and determine what type of year we had based on wins and losses. It was really, can we continue to get better? And my first year here, we got better throughout the course of the year. We lost, I think, 5 games by combined maybe 16, 17 points in a stretch. And after we lost that 5th one at Ball State, we took the team to Dairy Queen. I figured ice cream made everyone smile. And it's such a long year. It's hard to win. And then we ended up winning, I think, 7 of our last 10 games. And we're playing really well heading into the MAC tournament, when the COVID shutdown hit.
Yeah.
And so even this year, we returned some guys and brought some new guys in. It was still a growth mindset, continue to get better. And, we use the equation E plus R equals O, Tim Kite, focus 3 deal. And we knew at some point that we'd probably have some type of COVID pause or shutdown. And, it was going to be the culture, the response, the attitude to be able to get through it. And, we had a couple situations that we dealt with. And towards the end of the year, we had played 3 games in, I think, 36 days heading into the conference tournament. And, I didn't know what to expect. So we played Kent, won that game, played Toledo, won that game, then won in Buffalo and kind of carried that confidence in the NCAA tournament.
I'll have to put a shameless plug in for if anybody hasn't watched Tim Kite's episode on here, they should go back. It's really, really good. But yeah, that momentum was obvious. I would like to back up a little bit though, in terms of the recruiting process for you now. Like, how important are there, I would call them non-negotiables, at least when I was a coach, there was just certain things that we were looking for and we made exceptions for others. And I think at the end of the day, I would like to hear about what you're looking for specifically in a player and how this affects coaches or obviously people in the business. And how important is it to you that they're a Jeff Boals guy? Because there was some guys that, I'm not saying that they weren't good, but they weren't a fit for me and what we were doing, if that's making sense. So I don't know if that's something that you're looking at particularly, or you have these non-negotiables in your chair now.
Yeah, the 3 things we look for, number one is high character. guys that do the right thing on and off the court. The second thing we look for, like I want guys who want to be pros. And the reason I want those guys, like I know they're going to be doing the extra. I know they're going to take care of their body. I know they're going to get, eat the right way. And obviously it's up to us to help educate them. We always talk about being a pro's pro on the court and off the court. And, like anything, you have to educate, you have to teach. But when you have guys who want to be pros and they're not in the gym, maybe every other day, it's like, hey, look, this isn't going to cut it. This is what you want. You want to play in the NBA. You want to play overseas. You got to be an everyday guy. You got to be consistent. You got to watch film. You got to get treatment after practice. You got to come early and stretch. And then the third thing, young men serious about earning their degree. I think it's important, like we all talk about, you have to understand why you have a job, right? You have a job for the student athlete. And when a parent drops their son or daughter off to you, right, you have a responsibility. You got to hold them accountable. You have to, discipline them when they need discipline. You got to love them when they need loved on. And most importantly, preparing for the real world. So academics, earning their degrees got to be a priority for them. The three non-negotiables for us: going to class is non-negotiable. Second thing is attitude. Third thing is effort. And those are all three things the kid can control. And I think when you set that expectation up front and you're transparent, like there won't be a surprise when you get disciplined when you don't go to class, you show up late for a tutor. Yeah. And when that expectation's there and the accountability piece is there, and you understand why you're there, basketball, academics, and social, right? Those three experiences. And so those are the non-negotiables for us. I'm a big positive person. I dislike negativity. We always talk about, like, we don't want to coach wheelbarrows, guys. You got to push all the time. Yeah. And what I do is I sit down every individual and have them come up with 3 individual goals and 3 team goals. And that's how we motivate them. If they're showing up late or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're losing every sprint, I'm going to hold up their individual, goals and say, look, this is what you told me you wanted, right? Your effort level is not near, being the defensive player of the year, being the freshman of the year, being a, pro. So that's kind of how we do things.
It's good. I love it. I love it. I think Coach Bolden and I could have played for you, man. I wish you would have been there then. But let's talk a little bit about your upset this year of Virginia. I mean, what a moment. I know I watched it with my boys. Just describe to us that or are you able to describe that moment when you're now? I guess now that you're removed from it, probably a little bit easier than right after.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I think number one, you dream about playing in the NCAA tournament as a player, right? Growing up, and as a coach, coaching in it. And I was able to experience it as a player, as an assistant coach, and getting to do it as a head coach, just was awesome, especially at your alma mater. And to have our guys get the experience that I had, seeing their name pop up on, Selection Sunday, going through it. And, I told my wife after the game, I caught myself in the first half. It was surreal to me. Like, I'm coaching in Assembly Hall, right? Tony Bennett's on the other end. I'm in the NCAA tournament, crazy to think about. And then to win the game, I thought our guys did a phenomenal job executing, the last 5 minutes. And, when you play Virginia, you can't beat yourself. They're not going to give you the game. You have to earn it. And I thought our guys earned it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Fun game. Very fun game. How do you, as a leader, how do you get a group of individuals and collectively as a team, how do you get everyone to believe the unlikely, Jeff?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, confidence and belief are everything. And, as a leader, you have to exude that, and you have to build that up in individuals and as a team. And I think it started, the year we played at Illinois in their tournament. And, we were winning by 1 with 7 seconds to go. They were top 5 in the country. And we lost the game, something I think about every single day. And I think our guys had the confidence, like, hey, they can compete with anyone in the country. Mm-hmm. And, that was game 3 and day 3. And when you get to that point, it's all heart and toughness. So going through the year and doing what we had, we came off a 21-day pause, and we're playing 3 games in 5 days. And our first game was against Akron, who I think was second in the league at the time. And we didn't have our point guard, Jason Preston. We didn't have our center, Dwight Wilson. And before the game, I didn't know what to expect because we had one practice in, let's say, 24 days. And I told our guys, hey, look, go have fun. Go play with uber, superior, ultra confidence. Okay, believe you can win the game. If you're open, shoot the ball, shoot it with confidence. If you miss, be ready to shoot the next one. And we ended up winning the game by double figures. And I think that really gave us a big momentum spark. We won the next game, lost to Buffalo. And then we had our last 2 games canceled in the regular season because we had another positive test. So going into the MAC tournament, I told them the same thing. Like, hey, you're the underdog. You're a 5 seed. Like, go play free. Go have fun. And before every single game in the MAC tournament in the locker room, our guys were talking. They had the music going. They were loose. And I just think they had the confidence to win. And then when we beat Kent State, that carried over to Toledo. Beat Toledo, carried over to the championship game. And like I said, winning that game, the fashion that we did, bled into the NCAA tournament. They believed they could beat Virginia.
Right.
They expected to.
Well, kudos to you for creating that environment. I mean, that obviously comes from the top. Just a couple things here, and we'll finish up with rapid fire. I got to know, like, where do you – I'm not going to talk about the dance moves or anything, but where do you get all that energy from? And how are you able to stay so positive? That to me is extremely commendable, and maybe because it's so difficult for me as an individual, but like, where did that come from? Has that always been that way, or do you have to practice that? Where's it at?
Yeah, it came from me in Ohio State. Thad was super positive, and we would have practices some days that were like awful. And, we'd be centered up like everyone does after practice. And, he'd be like, hey, we started off slow, got better. And I thought we ended really well and did some really good things. And, as an assistant, you're thinking like, that was the worst practice we've ever had. But, for the head coach to say that, and guys are probably thinking like, oh yeah, we got better. We picked it up at the end. And, I just think that's the way to go. I think that the mindset of young people today, right, the positive feedback, now you're going to get on people when you need to. But I think just promoting that positivity, the belief and the confidence goes a long way. And I got that from, being around him.
Yeah, and that's funny because I would say in the couple practices that I was down there, that was my major takeaway. I was amazed at the positivity and being so upbeat, and I think that really helps with the environment. You mentioned a little bit earlier books and of course film and some of that, but how do you personally grow? I mean, do you have a favorite book? Are you reading one now? What could I know our audience loves to hear about these? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I mean, I do, the normal John Gordon books I think are awesome. I try to read as much as I can, and a lot of articles. Like like I got 3 articles right now on my desk I'm going to read, and it's basically why champions fail to repeat winning another championship. Simple quote about life sums up how to not pursue a difficult goal. Why champions don't repeat. So I'm just thinking like, how can we, keep this thing going and stay hungry and, go from, preseason whatever to now you're going to be probably preseason number 1 and just the mentality piece to it. From an X and O standpoint, a lot of our stuff is NBA European sets. And Ryan Pannone is phenomenal. He's a G League coach right now. Clinics, I think one of the best things about the COVID pause, I was on a lot of Zoom clinics, just trying to learn different things and different offenses and different thoughts. But I think you got to continually learn and continually grow and really just find a way to challenge, because it's such a long year, right? How to keep it fun, how to motivate your guys. And Thad was always big on fresh minds and fresh legs. Such a long year that was really, really big at the end.
Yeah, that's funny because, Bob and I, when we spoke yesterday, kind of about the way I brought up the Baylor and having that time off and how it probably could have helped him. And he mentioned, even with your guys, maybe that was something that was good for you. Well, hey, we're going to go rapid fire to finish. I call this 3-pointers. I know you didn't shoot any of these back in the day, but we'll let you hoist them up now, all right?
I did shoot them. I didn't make them.
There you go. Number 1, if people could learn one thing from this talk, just one thing, and hold on to it, what would you want that to be?
I think the biggest thing is, going through, whether you're in a business, whether you're coaching, life, like we talked about, the E+ articles are the response to everything. And I haven't watched your Tim Kite podcast, but I'm going to go back and watch it because I think Tim is phenomenal. It resonates to the business world, to the athletic world, and really the response. And to me, it's positivity and work ethic.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I use it a ton as a parent. Number two, if Jeff could have came over here today and been Kevin and asked Jeff a question, what question would have you asked him that I did not ask today?
Oh, man. That's a great question. Probably, I think the biggest thing, like when you like, what is the best thing about coaching? And I think the best thing, when you play and you stop playing, you miss the competitive piece to it. You miss the locker room, right? The bus trips, being in the dorm with your teammates. And I think coaching, keeps that competitive fire, allows you to meet a lot of different people. And, you really have an impact on young men's lives, and you can help mold them. And they're going to be in a culture for 18 years when they grow up. And then they'll be in your environment for 4 years. And, you're another piece to, helping them become who they're going to become.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Well, hey, finally, good stuff's the name of this. Just something that I've always said in general. Anything you feel appropriate right now, give us some good stuff in closing.
I think, love what you do, right? Love where you do it, love who you do it with. And, I've been at all different levels, Division II, low major, mid-major, high major. And if you're a coach, one of the things I've always heard, like, make that the big time, right? Have 2 feet in, be a star at your role, be the best you, help elevate your boss, your head coach, the program, and, really do whatever it takes. Like I to this day, I'll sweep the floor, I'll go to the plane and, take the bags and put them on the bus, all those little things, just to help out and be in the trenches with everyone.
That's good. That's that Northeastern stuff we talked about. Well, there you go, man. Knocked them out 3 for 3. I thought I'd maybe get something in there about your love for dogs. We didn't get to that today, but that's a big thing I hear.
Yeah, I just got another one. So we have 3 now. So we got rival, we got rebound, and now we got Rella, short for Cinderella.
Well, there you go. And I also don't want to forget to congratulate you. On your daughter there. I saw you in some other gear on social media yesterday. Congratulations to you and your family. Jeff, where can our listeners connect to you personally and maybe the team, social media, anywhere that you can let us know about, please?
Yeah, so ironically, when I was at Akron, Dan Tudor, who has a great newsletter, I was reading it one time and said, hey, coaches, Twitter's the next big thing. Get involved with Twitter. And I was like one of the first ones to sign up. I think it was like 2009 maybe. And I'm like, how does somebody get 140 characters and going to read what I write? And I had no concept. And the growth of social media, there's a lot of positives and some negatives to it. But so I got at Jeff Boals, JEFFBOALS, for my Instagram and my Twitter. And I don't know, there's a lot more Jeff Boalses out there, but it was the first name I thought of and it was available. So I was able to do it.
There you go. Awesome. Well, hey, Jeff, thanks so much. Excuse me. I'm happy for you and the success you guys are having. You've always been very good to me. I really appreciate that. I love how you coach. I just respect that approach and that consistent passion and enthusiasm. So keep up the good work. I know I've been itching to get down there to see a practice. I know the COVID has not, that's prohibited me from doing that and seeing Bob and you, but I look forward to that. But thanks again for being here.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and this is good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Well, hey, everybody, thanks again for listening. As always, reach out, goodstuffkevin@gmail.com. We love to hear from you, and I'm sure Jeff would love me to relay some of those comments as well. So thanks for being with us. Until next time, good stuff.